When people talk about ADCs that scale, there are a few names that always come up. Jinx, Xayah, sometimes Vayne. And somewhere in that conversation, there is always that one guy who says, Kog'Maw also scales. And that's where I'm gonna stop you. Because Kog'Maw doesn't scale. He's not the late game raid boss that pops off with 4 items. In fact, he's kind of the opposite. Kog'Maw is one of the few ADCs who actually peaks early in terms of items. His true power is between 1 and 3 completed items. And if you don't use that window to snowball, the game tends to slip out of your hands. We can clearly see this if we will look at the win rate versus time graph on Lolalytics. And if you've played Kog'Maw yourself, you felt it too. Another interesting detail is that all Kog'Maw's abilities scale with AP, not AD, except his ultimate, which only makes him even more of a non-scaling champion. But what makes him even more interesting is his damage split. On average, over the course of a game, Kog'Maw ends up dealing about half AD and half AP damage. That's not something many champions can say. It means that no matter what your team comp looks like, whether you're playing in a full AD draft with Yasuo mid and Trundle jungle, or a full AP comp with Cassio and Elise, you still provide valuable damage. That flexibility is rare, and it's one of the main strengths of Kog'Maw that people often overlook. Now that we know who Kog'Maw really is, let's talk about each of his abilities. They look simple, but all of them have lots of usage. His Q looks harmless, just a little speed that travels in a line. But the reality is, Q gives you 2 things: passive bonus attack speed and a shred of enemy armor and MR. It's a really strong ability, especially if you are playing against tanks. It's kind of funny, because most Kog players tunnel so hard on their W that they forget Q even exists. But if you're not using it, you are literally throwing away free DPS. The resist shred doesn't just help you, it makes your entire team do more damage to that target. So make sure you are using it in fights. W is the ability that defines Kog'Maw. When you press W, your range goes from meh to why is this guy hitting me from Narnia? And on top of that, you are dealing max HP magic damage every auto. But here's what most people are actually missing about that ability. W doesn't make Kog'Maw a scaling champion. Yeah, it has max HP damage, but it's AP damage. And once enemy gets high enough levels or MR items, it doesn't deal as much damage. It works the opposite way too. While enemy team has low levels and you max your W first, your damage on it is really good. Kog'Maw's E is a big skill shot that slows enemies in an area. But in practice, it does a lot more. It helps you poke and kite immobile targets. Imagine Garen running at you. Normally terrifying, right? You press E and that's it, he can't reach you. You can also use it for lots of combos, which I will explain a bit later. Your ultimate is a long-range poke that doubles in damage against low HP targets. Every cast costs more mana than the last, so you can't just use R endlessly. There are lots of nuances there, so it will be covered later as well. I think we forgot about something. Ah, yes, the passive. One of the funniest and the most underrated passives in the league. When Kog'Maw dies, he speeds up, and you can run at someone and deal huge amount of true damage with explosion. And I'm not exaggerating it when I say it's a fight-changing. In mid-game fights, where both teams are grouped, you can see Kog's passive hitting for around 1k true damage total. That's game-changing. Even in the early game, if someone dives you under the turret or wins all in, you almost always trade 1-for-1 or get their summoners. The most interesting part of that ability is that your movement speed is actually ramping up from 10% bonus movement speed to 50% the longer you are running. People usually underestimate how fast you are moving, so you are basically guaranteed to explode them. There are not many combos, because Kog'Maw is an auto-attack based champion, but there are some stuff you need to be aware of. First, Kog'maw's Q cast time scales of his attack speed. It means that unlike on hit Varus E, you won't be stuck at animation for too long, so you won't lose any DPS by pressing your Q. Don't forget to use it. Second, W timing is everything. Don't use it on cooldown. You need to think carefully about when exactly you need to press it. If you use it, let's say when the enemy ADC is already staying out of your range, they will just see your W and wait out the duration. The best Kog players time their W for when they know they can actually hit. For example, if you see the enemy ADC going for a minion he desperately wants, you can press your W and poke him while he gets it, or make him lose some gold. Kog'maw's E is your setup tool. It makes it so much easier not only to kite, but also to use your other spells. You can press E plus Q immediately, and it won't be as noticeable. You can press E plus R to guarantee you will hit your ultimate. It's basically free damage every time you hit those. Additionally, the special feature of E is that it will not do much if you stand perpendicular to the enemy. They will get through it pretty quickly. But if you stay parallel to them and cast it, they won't be able to reach you at all. Consider it when using E defensively. As I said before, ultimate has lots of usage. I already mentioned E plus R combo. You can also press your ultimate occasionally when enemy is working for CS. Free damage plus costs only 40 mana. If enemy is below 40% HP, make sure to use it every time it costs 40. If enemy is zoning you away early on, or you can't walk up for the wave in 1v2 situations, ultimate helps you to farm minions from time to time. Your ultimate range also increases with levels. It is insanely large on level 16. Why is that useful, you will ask? Well, for lots of reasons. The most important one is that you can check any bushes in case enemy tries to ambush you. If you hit them, you reveal them for 2 seconds, which is really huge, especially in late game scenarios. You can also clear minions from afar, in case you have to kill enemy minions, so enemy team won't be able to end. Now, let's talk about something more specific – runes and items. There are 2 good Kog'maw builds, but one is a lot more situational. So let's start with a more basic one – on hit Kog'maw. Runes. Lethal Tempo is your usual choice. PTA is not that good for Kog'maw. Triumph is solid, take it all the time. Alacrity over Bloodline, unless you are playing versus heavy poke lanes or need survivability. For the last row, take Last Stand if you are going to resolve in secondaries. Otherwise, Coup de Grace is good for finishing champs, especially if you will die a lot. For secondaries, Resolve with Conditioning plus Overgrowth is the most consistent one, but if you expect a heavy trade lane, usually happens in Enchanter vs Enchanter matchups, Inspiration with Biscuits Delivery and Magical Footwear can be better. Approach Velocity is another spicy option against heavy range compositions. For the build, you will always go Rageblade first over Borg. Always. Rageblade is just so much better for Kog'maw, because he wants to proc his W on hit damage as much as possible. Kraken is good too if you are playing versus squishy champions. Second item, you usually lean towards Zeal items like Runan versus 3+ melis, PD if you need mobility, and Navori, which is generally good for Kog'maw, because lots of his abilities are adding insane value to the fight. That's your core 2 items. Now let's talk about specific items that you can get past 2 items or instead of second item too. Rageblade. If you, for some reason, want Borg or want Kraken first, Rageblade second is a must. Wits End. Really good versus AP heavy teams. If you see 3+ AP champs in the enemy team, not counting support unless it's a mage, you can get it as your second item or later. Terminus good later in the game. Your third, 4th item also helps with survivability due to resists. Blade of the Ruined King. Good versus HP stackers like Mundo or Sion. You can get it as second item or later, though I rarely buy it, because other items are much more important. There are plenty of good survivability items you can buy on Kog'maw. Let's talk about them. Jak'Sho is a bait. Yeah, I said it. It's not good on any on-hit ADC. This item is designed as late-game tank item to increase their resistances drastically. If you buy it without resists, you are paying for stats without passive, which is not optimal. The only time you can ever consider it as an option is if you are having Terminus plus other sort of resistances, like lots of mountain drakes, Wit's End, etc. Hexplate after its buffs is a really good survivability option. You can get it as your second item or later, though you will have to control yourself to not press ultimate just before fights. Hullbreaker, the same as Hexplate, an insanely good survivability option that you can get as your second item or later. It also gives you additional damage on its passive that scales with HP that you stack with Overgrowth. Really good but underrated option. It's actually good on lots of other ADCs. People played with it a lot in January, but forgot about it once ADC items became decent again. Mercurial Scimitar, nothing to say. You can get it versus heavy uncleansable CC. Helps a lot. That's it for on-hit build. But there is one more build. AP build. It is a really niche build, and generally speaking, you don't wanna go for it unless your team really needs AP. I'm personally not a fan of it, but it can be good sometimes. So I will talk about that build, but not as much as with the previous build. Runes. Standard 1 is a sorcery with Comet, Mana Flow, Absolute Focus, Gathering Storm. But I think with how much poke runes and the sorcery 3 in general nerfed, Inspiration is a much better choice. First Strike, Magical Footwear, Biscuits, Cosmic Insight, though approach velocity should also work. For secondaries, it's hard to say. Legend Haste with Presence of Mind can be good. Boots plus Cookies can be good if you're going for sorcery first. Gathering Storm plus Mana Flow. Lots of options. For items, it's your general poke mage items. Blackfire Torch, buffed Horizon Focus, Seraph if you got a tier early or need survivability. If not, Rabadance or Shadow Flame. You can build Crypto Bloom later on. It is a stronger magic pen option than Void Staff. The main combo of this build is E plus R, which deals lots of damage with AP items. You just spam your ultimate and try to poke people, but you still have to think about mana cost on it. So, when do you actually lock in Kog'maw? The ideal answer is when your team is built to protect you. Enchanters and peel tanks make your life so much easier. But the cool part is that Kog'maw isn't only a protect the carry champ. Because of his versatility, current power and different builds, he can work in most compositions. You can play with the poke compositions and help them a lot with your E and ultimate. You can play with selfish cage champs, who wanna find random skirmishes and ambushes. And even if you die, you will help them with your passive. He is a really good blind pick in general. I personally don't think any matchup is very bad for Kog'maw, but there are a few you need to be aware of. Yasuo ADC. Quite unpopular pick, yet he negates all Kog'maw's strength. Yasuo also thrives if enemy ADC is immobile, which Kog'maw is. If you're playing versus him, try to keep the wave close to your turret. You can get Pry level 1, crush 2 waves, and it will slowly push to you. Don't do much during it. Yasuo has insane mobility with all of those minions. Take Exhaust versus him instead of Barrier or Ghost. Really helps with random all-ins. Tristana ADC, another kinda go-in ADC. Another champion versus who you have to take Exhaust. Generally speaking, it's 50-50 and really support dependent. You have to not let her go in while your W is on cooldown, so play safe during that downtime. If you have your W, you can try to fight her and even win all-ins. But these are really close fights. With one item, it becomes much easier, and you usually win if she is jumping at you. Though she will press ultimate and will leave you without a kill on low HP, which still sucks. Twitch, another YOLO champion. You can play Exhaust versus him, but Barrier also works. You are stronger than him before level 6. After level 6, and especially after his first item, he will win all-ins versus you. I tried to 1v1 him lots of times in these situations, and the outcome was not in my favor. You need to play carefully during those 10 minutes. After that, when you get your second item, you can fight him, and it will be close, but usually you will be a bit stronger. The thing about Twitch is that his second item spike won't ever be that strong. It will be Ronan most of the time, which won't do much in all-ins. Nila. She is the hardest counter, negates all your autos with W, can randomly win all-ins, outscales really fast. If Nila is actually good, your experience can be miserable. But well, she is one of the least picked ADC, so you don't need to ban her. Just play carefully versus her and try to bait her W somehow. Don't let her engage with her double E on you. Hard, I know, but that's why she is the counter. Oof, well, that was lots of info. I hope it was useful for you. If you have any additional questions, you can ask them in the comments, and I'll answer them for sure. Make sure to like the video, subscribe, or check any of the videos right here. I really appreciate it. Bye!